Well, the clock on the wall is saying 6:30, so I'll call the meeting to order here. First order of business. Do we have any additions or deletions? No? Okay. Approval of the Selectboard Minutes from 11/7/22. Motion to discuss?
Hi Martina, this is Sandy.
I make a motion to
Wallingford.
discuss.
Second.
We will get to you in
Favor?
just a minute.
Aye.
But if you're on with you now.
Any additions, deletions, changes?
Yeah, you'll have to do that. We actually just started the meeting, so I'll put you on speaker when we come up to your subject, okay? All right, bye.
We're on meeting minutes.
Everybody's good with the minutes, then I take it?
Yes.
Yes.
Entertain a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pay orders. Pay orders for November 22nd, 2022, $61,406.17. Any discussion?
Just one question. The beehive supplies at $368, not a big deal, but does that come out of the conservation's budget, committee's budget, I presume? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Wow, $2,500 for mounting 6 tires. I'm guessing that's for one of the tractors, or the 6 tires mounted.
Probably dump truck. I don't know what size were they?
It doesn't specify. It just says $2,500.
5337.
That was probably, 26 tires, yeah, it's definitely dump truck.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be loaded for anything else. It'd be a lot more money than that.
5337 is the Kenworth, 16 Kenworth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you appreciate car size for your car now?
Any other questions? Motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the pay orders of $61,406.17.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Road Commissioners report.
You want to do honorable mentions?
Oh, yeah, let's get the honorable mentions.
Oh, yes.
Honorable
This
mentions.
is what you used to do, so. That's my turn for you.
Reggie and Leanne Deno contributed to the newsletter. Jim Bergula and myself repaired the elevator door. And all the volunteers who assisted with the November general elections at Town Hall. Now you can go, Phil.
Down the garage today, stopped in, checked on everything. Not a lot so far this season. Of course, hasn't really been too bad yet. The one thing we do need to talk about, I guess, is the Creek Road Bridge, past True Temper. State was there today. Not only I think they're the state inspection guys. Ryan Sanderson and Bruce was there, Sandy was there, Steve and I were there. I don't know if there was anybody else, I don't remember.
Justin White was there.
So anyway, they looked at the bridge. Did a report, I think roughly a month ago. They're gonna send to the state, which is gonna be sent back to us. On the inspection of the holes, the cracks, multiple issues with it. It's an old bridge, but they thought it was gonna stay together till they were thinking, maybe another 5 or 10 years, maybe. But there's no sure way of knowing that. Issue being on that, the plate that's in there now has a little bit of flex in it. I'm gonna put a shim in that and take the flex out of the plate so it doesn't slap. And we're gonna rotomill the slopes coming to the plate so it's a gradual transition, hopefully, across. Because putting tar over a plate, unless you do a whole pass at 2 to 3 inches, is not gonna amount to anything. Just doing the edges is just gonna pop it right back out. So we're gonna try to mill the edges down so it's a little smoother transaction. Putting slow signs up probably won't do a bit of good, but so that's primarily what we're gonna do on the bridge. My thought is that the board needs to probably start seriously thinking about a replacement plan for the bridge. Talked to the structural gentleman there today, and they figured rough ballpark idea between 5 and 10 million to replace that bridge. Mr. Sanderson said that there's I think a structure grant,
Yes.
Yes, we do, we apply, so we
And
apply for every spring.
but it's only for like $200,000.
Right, it would just be for like the intermediate repair.
Yeah, so it's really not, unless they come up with some sort of, that I don't know about, and I don't know if Sandy does, bond or something that can help you out with. It's gonna be a fair chunk of money to the town to replace this bridge. And I presume it'll probably take a 3 to 5 year span to get a bridge design made, right of ways, temporary bridge. There's a multiple issues here that need to be probably started to look into before we have a problem with that one.
And their estimate is 5 to 10 million.
Yeah. I said 2 to 5, he said, oh no, more like 5 to 10. So,
Do we currently have any applications for ARPA that are specifically for the bridge?
No, not for the bridge.
it's, I don't know, that's way out of my league, so, but, you know, you're gonna have to put a free-span bridge beside it. The bridge that they're talking about is gonna be another free span. They're gonna take the abutment out of the center, cause it is a water obstruction, flow obstruction, I guess you'd call it, is what he was saying.
And it has to be a free span bridge?
I would presume, because they don't want a abutment in the center, it's gonna have to be a free span.
Yeah, well, it'd be prudent to maximize Otter Creek's flow underneath it.
Yeah, and that's what they said, it was gonna be an issue with the
So
flow.
does the,
Hydrologist, they said.
the temp, they talked about the immediate repair, and then they talked about a more intermediate repair, which we can apply for that structures grant for.
Correct, if,
How much time does that give us? Does that expand the 4 or 5 years?
no, he figured probably might get 10 years out of that.
Okay.
But you could have another Irene come along and it'd be gone tomorrow.
Yep.
You know, that's something, but if you really look at the bridge, it has many structural defects in it, many.
Right.
It's not just 1 or 2, it's many.
So
He was
for,
talking about that immediate repair that we do
Yes,
right now. But
Yeah.
then he said in the spring, apply for that structures grant to do like.
a resurface over the face of the,
Right.
over the whole face, so it's all one consistent.
what's the payout on the structures grant? Is it an 80/20? Is it a,
Yeah.
okay.
So it, you know, that is something we need to, you know, in the spring, look into, get a quote on it, you know, this winter, while we have time, and get it quoted out, and then when we get a structures grant, we'll have a rough idea what it's gonna be to do it.
Does it say that?
The structures grants you get an order for, you get in kind of a replacement, just like paving. You don't automatically get it, you get kind of in line. When was the last time? And we got the Maple Street retaining wall 2 years ago,
2 years.
so we may not be in line for that structures grant for another couple of years. Because in paving, we only get paving like every 4 or 5 years. So the structures we just got 2 years ago, so.
And we got paving 2 years ago
Yeah.
on 140. But that creek road is one of the grant roads for
Yeah.
paving.
Yeah, the other thing is repaving, of course, does nothing concerning the improvement of the structural integrity of the bridge.
Right.
No, it's just to smooth it so it isn't so rough to go
Let it
over.
some pounding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would it make sense to turn that bridge into a one lane?
It is one lane, basically.
Well, it is, but it isn't, but yeah.
I don't think you could pass 2 vehicles on it the way it is now.
And I just wondered if it's worth, you know, limiting the traffic with a light or something on it.
I don't think anybody goes on that bridge when there's somebody else coming in the direction.
Well, no, right.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty narrow.
But it would, okay, I was even thinking like, is there a way that we could do some mild speed bumps on either side of it to make sure so people slow down, stop before they get to it? You're talking about how like to put slow up signs, that's not gonna do anything.
No,
That was discussed, but actually it makes it very difficult to plow. Speed bumps make it,
Right.
Oh,
And especially if you have,
Parking lots
yeah,
even remove speed bumps. in
Can you
this
do a
winter.
stop
yeah.
sign on each side of the bridge? That stops the cars and then they're going, slow down and go across it.
I guess you could. I don't know. I don't know
I'm
what
just-
the regulations
Yeah.
are for something like that.
Right.
If if you have a stop sign on each end, and so who's got the right of way to go? I don't know how that would work.
yeah, I think that would be difficult.
Yeah, I know.
We'd also have to do a change to our traffic ordinances and somebody could,
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, we just went through this on Florence Avenue, so.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
I feel like people at least would hopefully be a little bit more on board with it because it doesn't change traffic, it just slows traffic down a little bit on that road. And everybody knows that it's a gnarly bridge.
Well, I think you've got mostly local traffic on there, right?
Right.
People that understand the road and they know the bridge already. I don't know how much extra help it would be, frankly.
Now, Phil, with what you're proposing to do to the bridge right now, is there any cost to the town for that? Or taking the shim out and,
The grinding
And
and
the
stuff,
grinding and
I have a phone call on that right now.
Okay.
Out on that.
okay. So there could be
Could be, yes.
could be? Okay.
Move on to the
Yeah, she's on.
Green Mountain.
Martina? Can you hear us, Martina?
Yes, hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll try to speak up. Sean, can you hear me? Okay, great. Hi everyone. Are we ready for our little short talk here? Sandy?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, hi, this is Martina Barnes. I'm with I think I met some of you before when I first started as district ranger, but I'm the district ranger on the Manchester Ranger District on the Green Mountain and Finger Lakes National Forest. And I reached out to Sandy to just provide a short update on one of our projects. And I have 2 of my staff here as well to provide a little more information, and we won't take up too much of your time, but just wanted to update you on a timber sale called the Bully Brook Timber Sale that is part of our early successional habitat project. And I just wanted to give a chance for the district wildlife biologist. His name is Sean Langston. He's joining me by speakerphone here too, so I hope this works out. But he's going to just provide a short overview of the project and the purpose and the need for the project, and then I'll have Jesse Prustnall talk a little bit specifically about the Bully Brook Timber Sale. which I sent a map over to Sandy earlier today. So I'll hand it off to Sean. Sean, go ahead. Just speak up if you can.
Yeah, thanks, Martina. Hopefully everyone can hear me through the two phones here. But yeah, what we're calling the early successional habitat project, was originally proposed because we were looking at the landscape across the Manchester district and the southern half of Green Mountain National Forest, and seeing that the vast majority of that forest was in an older condition, like 60 years or older, and very, very little of that was what we call the regenerating age class, which is from 0 to 9 years, basically the first 10 years after a cut. So, our assessments were showing that, the district-wide, we're looking at less than 1% of the landscape was in that early age class, where our forest plan that was developed to have tools that are a little more diversified in those age classes. So typically, northern hardwoods, we're looking at our goals are 5 to 10% of the landscape being being an early successional habitat or regenerating age class. And pretty similarly with other forest types too, like mixed wood and softwood, it's a minimum of 5%. So our assessments are showing the vast, less than 1% was in that age class, and most of it was older. So, and that's and those early age classes really do provide important habitat components for a lot of wildlife species, a lot of especially passerine birds or songbirds, what you think of in the forest, but a lot of them do rely on those regenerating age classes, the brushy sort of new growth that comes in, and those also attract other wildlife too, such as deer use those, or use to browse and use those denser areas so like the fawns can hide in there and everything, and several other species that rely on those habitats, and we just had like a real lack of it. So that was the primary driver. It was for wildlife habitat. Some of the other goals for the project were to promote the aspen and birch habitat type across the district, and also maintain and manage some of our forest health issues with the beech bark disease, and also enhance do a little work around wetlands to create some early successional kind of more briny habitats for certain like yellow warblers or little flycatchers that might be nesting in wetland areas. So that was pretty much the goals for the project as a whole, and through that we have proposed we were looking at around 15,000 acres that we were going to do some sort of treatment in to produce this habitat, and over about a 15-year period, so whatever average out to about 1,000 a year. So the fully broke timber sale is just one of the sales that would be a part of that.
Great. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sean. Sorry.
I'm good.
The challenge is I'm not used to just being on a phone call anymore. You can't read people's body language. But just if you could hang with us, and Sandy, I'm going to pass it on now to Jessie, and she's going to give a little bit of more specifics about the timber harvest that recently recently occurred in Wallingford.
Hi everybody, can you hear me all right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So my name is Jessie Personal. I am the pre-sale forester on the Manchester Ranger District. We had the Wallingford sale that sold, I think it was last year, A. Johnson, which is out of Bristol, Vermont, ended up being the awardee for that sale. It is, the size is Originally proposed was 722, so that's looking at about a 68% reduction rate in what we had proposed to what we actually do. So that's pretty common across the board for these sales. So when Sean says 15,000 acres, don't be too pushed back by that, just because sometimes we do it on a stand basis, where for easy math, say if you have a 100-acre stand and we wanted to put in group selections, which are small clearings, usually an acre or so in size, and say we wanted to manage 5% of that 100 acres, we would claim that after the 5 acres had been cut, that entire stand had been treated. So that is the goal, is to treat stands, not necessarily the individual acres themselves, and have them all be cut. So there's always going to be about somewhere in the range. Right now we're averaging a 70% reduction rate in what we are proposing and what we're actually cutting for acres. So let's see. Is there any questions, I guess, I'd like to field it out to you guys about specifically the Bullybrook sale or anything in the surrounding area, given the maps and that we were able to provide?
Hi, Phil Baker, Road Commissioner here in town. Is this project going to primarily be over with this winter, or is it going to go into next summer?
Okay, that's a great question. So the Wallingford timber sale is pretty close to being cut in totality. It's kind of been shut down until winter operations for the season, because we're starting to hit our our fall time mud season. So we're waiting for conditions to get better so that we can start up operations again. The contract is the length of 5 years, so that trees that are out there, it could be up to 5 years that they would be cutting, but A. Johnson is, there is a need for wood, as many of you are probably aware, especially having it being local, it's a hot commodity, and so there's a lot of steam in the engine to get that finished rather than sit on it. So it's hard to say exactly when it will be done, given the contract period. However, like I said, they're pretty motivated to finish the sale in short time.
I was just curious because it was, they ran a little bit into this, what you call fall mud season, and the roads were a little soft, and it kind of made a mess up there, and I was just wondering if they were going to prolong into spring, or they were going to try to shut it down when spring gets here and start back up in the summer. We just have to be careful on using the roads and stuff a little better here.
Right. Yeah, and it is built into the contract where the contractor is required to work with the town, so working with you all when it comes to roads and stuff. I know when it comes to the Forest Service roads, they have to put down a certain deposit in order to pay back for any damage that may incur. So make sure that there's some cooperating happening there, which is their responsibility to make sure that they're having those conversations. I would say if they started up operations again, it wouldn't be until the ground is thoroughly frozen and where those issues from hauling on the roads wouldn't be as apparent. But yeah, I hope they're having those conversations. And if they're not, I would say, let us know, and then maybe even talk to them directly too, and that's A. Johnson out of Bristol. But for sure, we're trying to mitigate those issues.
Yeah, I also know the gentleman that's cutting it, so I can give him a call too.
Okay, that's perfect. I mean, if you have a direct contact, for
Yeah.
sure. Is there any other questions that we have on that end?
I don't have any more. I just wanted to make sure what their idea was on time and how they were going to run on the roads this year.
Right, and
You
the
know,
one
if-
thing I will mention is that, so if you look at the map, you will notice that for the Bullybrook area, it's, so the actual sale area is in that pink, but in that like kind of brownish, that darker brownish color. I will admit these colors aren't as great to describe over the phone, but it'll say years 1 to 11, which means there is the intention to come back after 10 years. So once the project is finalized, we'll come back hopefully in 10 years if there's a need. Because one of the things that we're looking at right now is that the Blackwood side of the Blackwood Road side of the Bullybrook timber sale, we're not sure that there's going to be any other additional need. There'd be some more analysis, of course, but the intent is to come back in 10 years and do some additional harvesting so that we have more of a mosaic in the area where we have this good composition and structure between the species diversification, but also the age classes that we're having out there. So do know that may incur in that particular area that's in dark brown. Whereas if we look at the more orange color of the map, it'll say years 5 to 10. That just means it's somewhere in that ballpark, that 5 to 10 year period of the project. We plan on going into that area, but it hasn't been scheduled as of now. We haven't even, there's no layout, there's no on the ground yet. There's just been the approval from the project.
Okay. Well, I guess basically it's a heads up on the road end. If they're gonna use it in the soft weather, we're gonna have to put a little more guideline in it for them.
Okay.
That's all. It was not a major issue, but it was something that
Yeah.
we had to address.
We
And,
don't want to create a problem for you all.
yeah.
Yeah, we had to bring up 8 loads of gravel the other day.
I was up there when they were dumping all that gravel. They were doing a good job, and like I said, I'm hoping that you're having those conversations with the operators, because
Yeah, I'm going
it's
to.
my impression that they're supposed to repair anything, it's a protect improvement, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's an improvement done, which is the road, and they're supposed to leave it the way they found it.
Correct.
All right, so we haven't had any conversations with them, we haven't heard from them
Okay.
once, so, I mean, if you have a contract with them and that says that they're supposed to be having conversations with us, that's not happening right now.
Okay.
I
Can
will
you provide
talk-
us a copy of that contract?
I can provide a copy of the contract, yes, that's all public knowledge. It may already be available, because I know our NEPA coordinator likes to make a lot of these paperworks available to the public, so it may already be available, but if it is not, I will send one to you. And then Martina, you have a good contact for them, so I'll make sure I put that on my to-do list.
Yeah, Sandy, we'll make sure we email that to you.
Right, and then you're gonna follow up with the contractor that they haven't had conversations with us. I mean, when we were making repairs for this, what happens with that? If we're going up if our road crew, I mean, I appreciate that Jesse, you saw them up there doing a good job, but they were up there repairing roads from this logging operation.
Right.
Do we send
I
invoices
will,
to anybody?
I'll supply you with a copy of the contract. You can see what the logger is then responsible for doing. I don't know what the restitution is on our end for them not doing something they're supposed to. That there is that's in the contract, but I can find that out.
So this is Kathy Luzader here. Can we ask them for restitution for the cost
I think
of?
you can. I'm pretty sure you can, because that is, like I said, it's an improvement that the town is invested in, and if they are, it would be like anybody else. If a private person had messed up the road, they would be liable then to fix it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll get back to you on a couple of those items.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you guys aren't, I just want to let you know, like, you're not powerless here. You do have all the power to go out there and talk to somebody, or to, like, somebody had mentioned, they have a phone number of the person who's operating. You have all that power to go and talk to them. Because they're not our people, they're just contracted on our land. And they just happen to be using your roads, but they're also contracted under us to talk to you about those roads. So, you have the power, yes, to, you know, have those conversations.
I think we're all set then.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks so much. Are there any other questions from the select board for us?
I don't think so.
I think we're good.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, please, this is an open door, and or we have an open door with you, and want you to feel like you're getting information from us if you need anything. So please feel free to contact me anytime.
Okay, thank you so much, Martina.
Okay, have a good evening.
You too as well.
Yeah.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
That's good.
Can we get a copy of their liability insurance that will cover any damage? That way we got it on file, and if
Yeah.
anything happens, we
Yep.
can have something to fall back on.
Yeah, it's gonna be under their contract, probably not their liability insurance, I wouldn't
What company is it?
But if,
It's
think.
what?
E. Johnson's the main
Johnson.
contractor on it.
Then they subcontracted out to.
It's subcontracted out to, Justin Lathrop,
Okay.
so I'll get a hold of him.
We just.
I just did
overweight.
his
We have a copy of theirs.
Yeah, I knew they had, they
We
just,
have a copy
we just
of their
signed, I just signed that.
and the only reason I said that is because if you say something about getting restitution for fixing the road, and he doesn't come through with any money, we have the insurance that you can go back up
Yeah,
on
we've
to
got,
get
we've got their.
repair the road.
Okay.
But I imagine it sounds like also if we went back to the Forestry Service and said, they say they're not gonna do anything about it, then
Yeah.
they might be able, because they have under contract with them, they might be able to
Yes,
have a little more muscle.
right.
Yeah,
Just making sure everything is covered, so.
right.
Right.
And I wonder almost even if it's worth it to have that contact with them to say, we know the roads are not ready for trucks to go on them yet, because they're still muddy, because they might not know, and they might just come right up and.
Oh, they won't.
They won't care.
No, the US Forest will have to let them in now. Till they say it's good enough to run on it frozen, they probably won't run again.
Okay.
The forester's gonna be the power over that right now.
Ready to move on? Public comments? Did you have something you wanted to say, sir? Transportation matters, Bruce, you're up.
Well, we've talked about my favorite bridge already, and Phil was kind enough to get the V-Trans people out there. I'm working to get V-Trans out to the bridge in East Wallingford that we've discussed in the past. Evidently, it's a state bridge, which is good news for us as far as cost is concerned. It's not good news for us as far as getting their attention. I took Ethan Pepin, who's now the Rutland Regional Planning Commission coordinator for the Transportation Advisory Council, out to that bridge along with the Creek Bridge here, and took a look at it under and over. So he's fully aware of what the material condition is and is taking the appropriate pictures. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get enough coordination from the Planning Commission to be able to get V-Trans to take a good stiff look at that as well. As you're all aware, and as Phil has stated before in previous meetings, if we're going to try to take trucks through East Wallingford and try to come up on the main highway, the only way you're going to do that is by going over that bridge. So it's in our vested interest to make sure something is done to make sure it's safe, and right now I'm not convinced. It's not so much the main structural I-beams underneath the bridge that appear to be the issue, although they're corroded. It's the piers that appear to be the issue. And of course, we have the same risk there that we have with Creek Road Bridge, in that if we get another Irene, it's the piers that are going to be affected, and they will probably be the point of failure for that structure. It appears as if I'm going to have some connection coming up with the Vermont Rail Advisory Council, which will be helpful for getting that derelict railroad maintenance unit off of our town.
Can they get it? I feel like it's fused. it's been rusted there for so long.
I'm told by Vermont Rail that they don't have any other place to put it. If you'll excuse the expression, kind of waved the bullshit flag at that. And I said, if you don't have another siding you can put this on that makes some sense, that's in an industrial area, then perhaps you ought to just scrap it in place. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think we need that unit occupying that short siding in Wallingford anymore. And I don't know if you're aware, we lost the Rutland Regional Planning Commission's council's representative employee that was working the GIS and floodplain issues. Steve has passed away, and we're awaiting a replacement. Once that happens, Evan and I have talked about sitting down with him and finding a way of getting us higher on the priority list for the upgrade and updating to the floodplain maps from where we are now, which is literally the last. This region in Vermont is the last region that is on the state's priority list for FEMA updates. So we're going to try to make a case of getting us a little bit higher on that priority list. So that's where we are at the moment. I'm certainly able to take any questions. Phil has certainly covered the Creek Road Bridge more than adequately, as that's concerned. But if you've got any questions on other transportation issues, I'll be happy to answer them.
So that floodplain, the updating the map. Well, we got an email from Shannon, right, about having the option to buy property in floodplain areas. I know this is something that's going to be, I think, another meeting, but that would be.
This is for another meeting.
Okay. So, but just in terms of like, if we're going to get updated maps, should we wait for that? I guess that's the question I'm asking.
Well, right now, in answer to your question, it appears as if it is going to be at least 3 years under the current list of priorities, and I would say it's more like 5 before we get updated floodplain maps.
Okay.
And quite honestly, based upon Irene and some of the other changes to our creeks that have occurred since then, like all of the work we did on Roaring Brook, I have no faith whatsoever that any of our floodplain maps are currently accurate. So I would counsel against making any property decisions that rely on the accuracy of the maps we currently have for the town of Wallingford. Which is why I'm so hot to get them updated.
Yeah.
Ready to move on? Thank you. Erika. you're just
Hi.
in time.
From one board meeting to another tonight. Okay, a draft 23 is up on the website, and I've already gotten 1 or 2 inquiries as to some of the things on it for the zoning regs, which is exactly what we're asking for. A copy of it went over to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. We had talked about sending it up to the VCLT, and I asked Ed Bove about that, and he said, they charge, we don't. So I thought that that was a pretty good reason. Not only that, but he said we can turn it around faster than the VCLT can, and quite frankly, they're a little more familiar with us. And the VCLT would probably, in my opinion, probably go back to the RRPC anyway. So we might as well do. Now, the big sticking point we have going on right now, and it's not really a sticking point, is two things. One, what is the boundary, if you will, of the village designations? Everybody keeps on saying historic. I use village proper, somebody else uses historic district. The big question in everyone's mind is, what is it? We don't really have a map that says, okay, from the north side of Meacham to the north side of the bridge and east-west, we don't have anything like that. Last week I spoke to Joyce, and the best we could do at the time was, and we have copies of it outside and in Julie's office, the architectural houses of Rutland. The copies we have actually show 3 different maps, one with Wallingford, one with East Wallingford, one with South Wallingford. We have, and that's what the state of Vermont has designated as our districts. The problem is, they don't have street names on there. What they do is they have houses because it's all identified by houses. So house number 1 on their map could be, and I'm making all this up, is somewhere in North Main Street. Well, is that the boundary or not? So I sent that over to the Rutland Regional Planning Commission to ask them, because they have an office that does mapping. And I sent it to Ed, and Ed said, well, you know, there's a really good map in the architectural buildings. And he sent me a copy of it, and I said, Ed, that's the map we're trying to get done. So there we go. I also asked Sandy, when we apply for the historic district designation here in Wallingford, if there happened to be a map in the application. And Sandy was nice enough to share it with me. That is a sketch map done, I think, don't hold me to dates, but I think it was done in 1984. And it does have the houses, little blocks. However, they have all the old addresses on there. So our house, for example, instead of being 65 South Main Street, is something like 11 South Main Street. So we can't really use that to designate because it's a script map. So we're working on that, but that's the main point right now, is to actually get those maps and put them in the document so people actually know that this is what the state of Vermont recognizes as our historic districts. And I did ask, as I said, for historical designation, because that is the US government, that's the feds. The other one is the state. And they kind of match up, actually, if you put them on top of each other. And I did talk to Joyce, and I asked her which map to use, and she said the architectural one that's in the booklet is actually the more accurate of the two. And she also said if you put all the maps of Wallingford together and put them on top of each other, none of them would match up. So that's the major sticking point right now. The other thing, and I know you're all aware of this, is the livestock issue in the historic districts, which is why we want the maps straightened out. And the Planning Commission, basing what happened with the document from West Rutland, when they did send it to the VCLU, and by the way, it took over 2 months to get it back, and it was suggested that any reference along those lines be taken out of the document and made into a town ordinance. They said it really belongs to as a town ordinance, much more so than anything. So that's the board. Our planning commission voted that that is probably a better way to go. And so we're working on verbiage for an ordinance to submit to you. It's not there yet. And that's where we are. So I know it's glacial, but we are moving in the right direction. The definitions, there have been complaints that, you know, the definitions are 13 pages long. But on the other hand, the explanation that the Planning Commission has is if it's explained and it's defined and somebody says, well, a setback is this, and somebody else says a setback is this. No, this is what a setback is, this is what the document says. So it actually gives people an idea of exactly what is meant. And acronyms are not used. They are, everything is spelled out as much as possible, because personally I hate acronyms. So we want to try and make it as plain and as clear to anybody as possible. And that's where we are. Okay?
For the, just one question on the historical districts. So there's not a, it is literally by whatever designation. So it could be 2 miles up, or like a quarter mile up 7 this way, quarter mile up that, and eighth a mile up 140. So it can't be just like a radius. We can't just say from like the town marker at the Boy in the Boot. We can't say anything within that
Not what these
mile.
not what these maps are showing. You can do it on 7. 7's easy.
Right.
Okay, except, and I think last week when I was doing it, when Joyce was here, one of the things I said, because one of the descriptions is, and the farm that is located on the southernmost, and I think, Julia, I think it was the Davenport farm, wasn't it, that we thought it might be? Maybe. I can see, because there was no name on it. And we're looking at the building, and we're looking at our maps, and we're looking at the parcels going, well, that kind of looks like it might be the same thing. And that's what we're trying to eliminate. So right now, the working definition, and it's strictly working, would be the bridge. And where the new development is down on the bridge side, to, believe it or not, the northern side of Franklin Street and or Mitcham, since the two of them don't quite go together. So it's the northern side of both of those. So that's the south-north side. That's the easy one. It's this way, east-west, that's the hard one, because you have all the side streets, and it kind of zips around and everything. So,
And we can't just say radius for that.
we could, but it wouldn't be officially recognized.
Really?
Well, because the map in the architectural book is from the Vermont Historical Society, and they're the ones that more or less decide everything.
Okay.
The other map is even worse, because it doesn't designate that. It has a divided line going in the back of several yards, splitting the yards in half, because that was done, I think, in 1984, 1988, something like that. So part of your house, part of your yard could be in the historic district, the other part couldn't.
Okay.
And it kind of floats around. So what I spoke to Ed about, and as you all know, Steve over in the RRPC passed away, and they are looking for a replacement. So he's handing it over to Ethan in the transportation.
Yes,
because
we talked.
Yes, because he's got a mapping background.
Okay.
To take the map that it looks like all parties agree, it's the one in the booklet, to take that map and take out all of the extraneous comments and say, okay, here it is. And then be able to put it on top of the street map and say, here it is, and then be able to draw an outline on it.
Okay.
So it for my personal preference would be Taft, for example, and I'm making this up, the east side of Taft to the west side of Railroad Street. That to me makes it very clear, okay? I mean, you get a compass, you know which is the east and the west side. But I think what we may have to do is actually go to addresses. So.
Well, because I think like if you're doing Taft, because that's what you're talking about just right out here,
Yeah.
then there's a ton of historic buildings just straight up.
Yeah, well, as I said, it would be further up,
Okay.
you know. I was just thinking Taft because it's right here.
Yeah, right. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is, since you asked, is remember a historic district overlays on top of a zoning district. And a lot of people are saying, well, the historic district is different than the zoning. Yes, it is. But if you take from 7 straight through town, you go through industrial, you go through neighborhood commercial, you go to multifamily, all within the historic district. So again, which one weighs heavier than the other one? For the purpose of what the ordinance may be, it might have to be the historic district, but for building and permits, it would have to be the zoning districts. Okay? So that's, again, where we are. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, on the budgets. Your package, you got worksheets.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we're going to another family meeting for dinner.
So, for you two that haven't done this in the past,
Yeah.
typically, what we've done is work through the budget line by line.
Okay.
And, tonight, the two items we have are the capital section of the budget and the town government. Julie has filled in some of the stuff. I think probably Sandy has added stuff too, where it's a known expense. Budgets are kind of a best guesstimate. on what you-
Right.
So, capital expenses. Start with 5710. So that's been completed. We don't have to budget for that this year.
Yay, 10 for 10.
Almost time to rebuild it again. Always the way it always works.
The bridge fund, we've been putting $30,000 a year into this every year. I think it has a balance currently of about $270,000 or something.
Should we add a couple zeros?
It's pretty obvious that there's enough in there, but
Can we take that 10 that we are not gonna spend on the 140 bridge and put it into the bridge fund, make it 40,000 this year? Anything's a help.
I was gonna suggest that.
I think that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, just to pad it with something that we were.
Just, yeah, anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think when it finally comes down time to do the bridge, we're gonna have to do a bond,
Yep.
Yeah, it's,
vote on that or whatever.
Right.
Yep. Anything we can at this point.
So you're gonna put 40 there then?
Yes.
And that may be something at town meeting you wanna bring up to the townspeople
Yeah, I would,
this year. Make
I
them
would start
prepared that-
communicating to people as you're running into in town that there's gonna be a big expensive bridge coming in our future.
Yeah,
So-
Yeah.
nothing we can do about it.
Yep.
I wonder if that's something we think about, just having a couple of meetings about that. Because we know what's coming up. When we get an estimate, when we get a little bit more information on it, just to start talking about saying, this is something we have to do if we want to have that road in town.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Building fund. Sandy or Julie has already entered what they anticipate for.
Sandy, does the cell tower, does that go up 3% next year?
Yep, that's calculated into what? 20,239.
Oh, I don't have it here.
highway reserve fund is a sinking fund. Typically, we put $20,000 in there. We currently have a balance of $36,100. But plus another $20,000 to come out for the budget. So, keep it at 20.
Can that go towards the bridge also? I'm just, that seems to go to be there.
Well, I was gonna ask, what does that normally get used for?
Paving, I guess?
That's what
Is it paving?
that's what I'm asking.
Thought paving has its own line item.
We used it for down payments on equipment, right, that highway reserve fund.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say it was, I don't remember exactly, but it was used
So
for
down
something.
payments
Okay.
on
Yeah, it was-
equipment?
Yeah.
Is like that when we get the case, is that gonna be coming out of that probably? When we get the grader?
The grader? I don't know. That's something they need to talk about at budget time.
This is budget.
Well, I really think they ought to put a line item in there and put 75 grand a year towards equipment replacement and not have to worry about loans and all this stuff, put it to the taxpayers. And try to get a little jump on this.
So what we're doing right now is, we're doing capital,
That's this one here,
yeah, and we're talking.
the highway reserve fund.
Put in the, yeah, that number,
It was 20.
5716.
Yep.
That's what they're trying to, what number to put in there.
Well, it's,
This?
Yeah.
It's in the, just the
is
notes.
that something that
Meeting.
they're gonna use for equipment funding down the road?
Cool.
Took me a minute too.
Well, typically, every year,
Oh, I
we
saw
end
it
up
somewhere.
buying something.
I know, and it's, because you've already got a backhoe that's rotting right off its frame down there, so
Do you,
there's gonna be no hold up on buying the next one.
do you have a, like a spreadsheet list of all the equipment and the expectation, like this will last 20 years, you know, whatever? So you
And where
can
we are in
visually
the
see.
cycle with each piece.
It's, the plan is, if it was, everything worked right, would be a 7-year rotation. That way you don't lose so much of the equity in it when you trade it,
Right.
because it's so old. But the grader is what, 21, 22 years old? And I think that backhoe is a 12 or 13 maybe? So they see that's already 10 plus. So it's,
Backhoe's in 2011.
yeah, so it's 11 already.
I think it's for budgeting, it'd be great to know, like roughly the
What's
next, you know, how many years, how much we're gonna have to put out for.
Well, that's something we can break down. Sandy and I can do that probably.
I think that'd be very useful information.
You know, and it's, because you've got a dump truck that's a 14,
Get a lot.
a backhoe that's 11. You know, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here, but the rotation period is getting longer.
No, but we
Which is
can't-
not good.
Right, and we can't plan for things if we don't know where everything is at.
That's right,
So,
I know a bunch of towns do put a set amount aside every year, so they have a slush fund.
Yeah.
So when they want something, they go buy it, they don't have to pay interest on it, they have that money sitting there, and that's how they rotate it into their equipment without having to finance, which I don't know what financing is, but it's gonna get worse.
it is.
I think if we wanted to do that, though, we would have to put that as an item before the voters.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So maybe
what I
not
thought,
this
too.
budget, but something maybe to start working on for
It
a
may-
year from now.
'Cause you can't, we can't just.
No,
Oh,
that's what I
no,
thought,
I
you have to
know.
put it
I'm
to
not
the
asking
board.
for immediate,
Or
but
to
just
the
to
people.
plan, to start planning for that.
Just
And
start thinking about maybe planning for that, bringing
Yeah.
something to the voters.
It might, I feel like it might make sense also to do it as steps. So like if it was like, we're gonna start doing 15,000, then we'll do 25,000. So that if we can't jump in with 75 because that would raise taxes so much. So if we do it in step ways, at least we're putting more than we were putting in, but we're getting closer and more comfortable with that. So it's not as big of a shock.
If you keep in mind your amount of payments that you're making now, kept 75,000 as your top number, deduct your payments and put the remainder of that 75,000 into a fund, and every year, whatever you lose for a payment, add that to that fund also.
Yeah.
So that fund every year is gonna continue to go up, and then it'll go back down, then it'll go back, so it'll be
Right.
always all your vehicles will always be $75,000, if that's the number. But depending on what your payments are, what we have now, that will change and fluctuate
Right.
on what's actually in that fund.
As long as we have an idea of what we can anticipate.
Right, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I think most people don't realize how much a dump truck's gonna cost versus
yeah.
another vehicle. You know, like, oh, whatever, it's just a truck.
Yeah, it's,
It's not.
the common 1 ton has doubled in price in 10 years.
Yeah, I
And
know.
that's the problem.
Yeah, no, since that truck was bought, that truck's probably doubled, yeah. I'd
It's
say
doubled.
Doubled.
I'm sure that 14 is doubled in price.
Coming back to 5716.
Okay.
When is the, new piece of equipment coming in?
We don't know that as of for sure.
I know, but.
They set a year, so it should land Christmas, first of the year, you know, before spring, possibly. But it's,
The discussion when we decided to purchase this was we were gonna use the Fernfield Farms money to pay for this grader.
Right. So
Now, when are we gonna see that?
that's December 2023.
So maybe,
So that's when
A
that
year.
money is available.
A year from now?
yeah.
There was, according to the article that was approved last town meeting, it was 256,982. 2/3 of that would be used at the select board's discretion for capital project. And then 1/3 of it would remain there. So that would be next Christmas, that money's available.
But in this budget year though, if the tractor, or if the grader arrives, we're gonna need to pay for the thing.
yeah.
I guess we take out a loan, but
Yeah,
And I think that's what we had talked about originally with doing.
yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
And then,
a short-term loan.
Right.
Till
Yeah.
money rolled in.
pay it back,
Right.
Yes,
so,
okay.
just so everybody remembers that.
Yes, that's,
Got the grader coming.
Okay. So we still haven't decided on a number for 5716.
Right, so
Not sure what it's used for. That was the,
it's being used for equipment right now.
right. All right, so it's the equipment
So-
slush fund.
It's, yeah.
probably should keep it where it is at until we can maybe make some plans and then next year make some adjustments to it.
Is there anything we
Yeah.
want to do to it this year? We have 20,000 to come out in the 23 budget. Do we want to put more towards it in this budget we're making now?
do we have any room to do it other than,
I would think that we could do, since we're doing 20,000 coming out for the fiscal year 23, we could say another 20 this year for the
Yeah,
24.
keep it the same.
Keep it the
Right.
same, or do we want to increase a little bit? Do we want to say 30?
Do we have room?
I would caution initially to.
To do that
keep it the
without-
same. To keep it the same
Keep it the
because,
same? Okay,
Yeah,
I mean,
I-
when we get into
yeah,
stuff like buying diesel for the year, I mean.
Yep.
we're gonna need it.
It's $6 a gallon now.
yes.
So there's gonna be a lot of increases in other areas.
You can figure 40% increase pretty near across the board and everything in the garage.
Then do we want to say that for 24, we're gonna go with 20?
Yes.
I would leave it alone for now.
Yeah,
yeah, I did.
Okay.
So we're doing 20 on 5716.
So we're on to town government operations. So 5112 elections and town meeting, Julie's estimating $1,300. Everyone good with that? Town report.
one where we're only doing 800 copies, right?
So how much does that cost going out? It looks like the actual was 1969.
So it went up $700.
Yeah, I mean, the price I got from Rutland Printing was close to 26, but that was for 850 copies, and we're gonna only order 800, and I don't think we're gonna have 60 pages, so I think it'll be less than the $2,600, but postage is gonna be around 400, so we're gonna come close to the budget that it is, and that's, I don't know, what paper cross will do a year and a half from now, or postage.
Do we want to budget another 3?
I think to be prudent with the prices increasing and
Well, you're gonna spend 3 this year, right?
Close to three.
Close to-
Why not add at least 5% onto that 3 to cover the cost, because we're talking next June
Right.
or July is when this budget takes in, so.
Do we take, like, if we did 850 and we're going down to 800, do we go through 800 reports?
Yeah, I mean, we did 850 last year, and we had, some left over, so I think trimming it back to 800 would be good.
But not-
Much lower.
Okay, that's just, yeah.
So I don't think we're gonna need 60 pages. I'm hoping like 52, so I'm hoping we'll be a couple hundred under 3,000.
Okay.
So are we thinking that we want to bump it to 3250?
Is that 5%?
Somewhere close to it.
Well, 10% would be 300.
Question I got, can you save anything on that?
Just a little bit.
I know you post the town report online on the website. Can we push that, reading the town report on the website a little stronger, so we don't have to mail out,
The reason we went,
800 copies?
the reason that we're doing the 800 copies is there was pushback when we tried to
Try to get it to do it the other way?
tried to stop doing that and just, well,
That's fine, I'm just, like I said, if some people have the internet and it's easier to read it off the internet, and they don't need a written copy of it.
It'd be nice to try to push that, but I don't know how much it almost is like if you could do 600 copies and then be able to have like on printing, like print on demand basically for those last 200. If that would work, but I don't know if there's a huge, like, is it a rush that all those 800 are gone in a week? Or is it those 800 are gone after 3 or 4 months? Because that's something we could,
mail.
We mail them all out.
the mail them all out.
Yeah.
before town meeting. so.
Then we get the reduced bulk mail
Right.
cost.
Right.
And if we had to send them to specific people, then our postage is gonna go up too.
Right. Okay.
So then are we thinking like 3150?
That's 5%. Yeah.
3150? So office expenses, they've level funded.
Okay.
Income tax is 375. Legal expenses. This, we've had years where we used all of it and other years where we haven't, so.
So then we're doubling it then?
But we budgeted 5,000 last year
Okay.
in anticipation of some things, but we haven't had to use it. I would suggest we leave it at the 5,000.
I mean, if we're, yeah.
Y'all in agreement?
Yeah, I mean, we've got tax sales coming up in the normal year business, so.
That doesn't come out of that.
That doesn't come out.
Doesn't matter.
No.
So it's only like when we have to go to VLCT and ask their lawyers about something and then, or we're going directly.
Gary,
Yeah, the town's attorney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to do like 4? Just to have a little more room for other things that we're thinking about, or is it not worth that?
So, well, you said you budget higher for a specific reason. Is that specific reason still a potential option?
Yeah, I guess that's the,
And if that's the case,
if that's
I
the
say
case,
keep the
then yes.
5,000.
Okay.
that'll be part of the discussion later.
Okay, cool. As long as there's a reason, I'm good with it.
Planning and zoning ordinances, we budgeted last year 750. We've actually only spent 280 at this point, but
But then if we're coming out with the new zoning,
That's what it was raised for.
Right.
but we haven't done it yet because we haven't
So
gotten
it
there.
better
Okay,
stay the same.
yeah.
So we'll keep it there at the 750?
Along with that, I'm assuming the ads and warnings would have to stay the same.
probably leave those the same, yes.
Yeah. And then we're gonna talk about the next one. Not the next one, the one after.
So ads is staying at 1,100?
Yes.
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 What about seminars, meetings, and mileage?
Leave that level funded.
It can stay the same. We're only at 165 now.
Yeah. So level it?
Yep, 500.
Okay.
Records and restoration.
I'd like to wait on that till I figure out what, we're
Okay.
gonna get recording fees.
So we're
Okay.
gonna table that one for now.
Memorial Day expenses.
Looks like we should level it.
Leave it at 300.
Yeah.
Dues were already set for VLCT.
Rutland Regional Planning Commission dues. Someone got a notice on that.
Went up $25? Or we did, it went up $25 last year. Then we only,
Do we wanna level that? We spent what we budgeted for back in '22.
but then we budgeted for 1,000, then we still only spent the 975? That's how I'm reading this right?
Yeah, the actual was 975.
So then we should probably budget another 1,000.
Was it above 1,000 that, Sandy, that notice we got?
Yeah.
I can't put my hand,
The actual is for what ended in 2022, and then you're seeing what we budgeted for 2023 next to it, 1,000, so.
Okay.
And then,
More or less than that?
no,
Just right around
1,000's good.
1,000's good, okay. Say we level
Okay.
it.
let's see. Workplace safety, this is gloves, earplugs, safety glasses, that type of thing.
Yeah.
We didn't spend much last year because we got, that huge one. That was a one-time only thing, and so we got everything out of that, and we didn't need a copay. Usually we need a copay on it, and we didn't this past year, so that's why only a little bit was spent.
So I would say we level it.
Level.
level
Yeah.
it.
Doesn't seem like something to scrimp on.
Dog license fees, 2,500. Civil marriage, 500. Transfer station.
That's always interesting.
And did that go down because of salary? Is that why it was only 84?
Some of it's salary and some of it is fewer polls.
Yeah.
You got
Okay.
that.
Yeah, the salary's not in 5150.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's just whatever.
so it's really just Casella, what we're paying Casella, okay.
Yes.
A few pulls out of it and.
Budget high, because we never know, but.
Right.
So is this something that we should keep the same, or can we lower it a little?
I wouldn't lower
I
it.
wouldn't
Okay.
lower it, just,
Just keep it at the 110?
But, I mean, I'm sure at some point Casella's will have to raise their rates, you know, taking
With
effect
everything
of
Okay.
diesel and all that.
Okay. Well, sounds good to me. I'm just saying that if there's a place we can pull.
I agree, I just,
That's always the,
our trash is not one.
So we're gonna leave that at
We're
110.
gonna leave it at 110.
let's see, we've only spent 26,000 so far this year.
Oh,
Um,
what do we think about maybe?
We're not quite halfway through the year. Double that, I think.
The amount was like 100 or.
or do 90 even if we had 84 last time.
Gonna sneak up and get you. You know it's gonna happen.
Maybe do 100.
I was thinking about maybe 100, but should we keep, what does everybody else think?
I got a feeling that
Keep it level funded.
I'd
Keep
leave,
it level?
Leave that.
Just,
I'm afraid that
That's all I
diesel
need.
fuel's gonna
That's
catch
all-
up to us sometime.
That's all I need to hear, yeah.
anything that involves large machinery and transportation, we need to.
Unfortunately,
Get ahead of the
yeah.
game.
Yes. Okay.
So 18.5.
If not, we'll be buying a truck to haul that up to the.
We don't want to,
Myself.
we don't want to do that.
Okay.
Rotate.
Okay, so the town hall operating expense? Keep that at the
What
18?
percentage should that go up? You know, that's your heat and your electricity and phone and elevator.
Well, heat's gone up, what, 20%?
You don't want a phone.
Yeah.
But I guess also let's think about the things that the ARPA is doing. One of the major one is heat and trying to make sure that it's a
Yeah,
little bit.
that's-
But we
But when
don't
is
know
that
the
getting done, I
outcomes.
guess?
Maybe a year away or 2 years away.
Right.
Okay.
So do we want to increase this?
Have you been last few years working with the school to get the same heating rates on fuel, buying it bulk, get a cheaper rate? Have you been doing that the last few years or not? Or doing it on yourself?
We do it ourselves.
Okay.
We've been getting a good rate.
Because I know over the years, in the past, we had joined forces with the school and got a good rate on it, so I didn't know if that was still.
I think that was probably when the school belonged to the town.
No, that's when Gary worked over there.
And Gary worked there before there was the merger as a unified district.
Yeah.
Did he leave?
Yeah,
He might have.
after that.
Oh, he was still there after they merged.
Right, but I don't know how long that rate went for once the district merged. So what do we think?
Well, the cost of living, they're saying was what, 8% increase?
So,
Got a calculator here.
Mm-hmm.
do we want to increase this to 19.5?
So if we go from 17, it goes up to 1836 if we do it 8%. So if we stick with the 18.5, then we're slightly above.
So stay with the 18.5?
Um,
What do you think? Are you thinking?
I'm thinking we should bump it up a little bit.
So if we did 10%, 18.7, so 18.750? I don't know, I mean like,
Like I said, it's always a crapshoot, but
Yeah.
right.
Get your crystal balls out.
Eight- 18,
19,
19?
make it 19.
Okay.
Probably do at least 19.
Okay.
You're gonna be all cold this winter. Put on your jackets.
Cemeteries
It's
is
like 12%. Okay.
Welland County tax, we'll have to probably wait for numbers on that, Julie, right?
Okay.
Yep. And, oh, where'd Carol go?
Yeah. Did she leave?
And she was on the phone.
Okay.
Oh. Do we want to talk energy committee first and then come back to conservation?
Well, they presented a level funded budget, so,
Right, so,
2,500, I think is
yeah.
fine.
And rec is separate from this? That's in its own little thing?
Yeah, rec has their own, a full budget.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
They'll be in early December.
Okay.
So,
That's on the schedule.
Yeah.
on,
Did the energy committee give a reason why?
Yes, they said that if the ARPA approved their energy audit application, they would need to send out flyers and stuff to folks to start soliciting people who want to do energy audits, so that was the difference.
I'm not sure the energy audit thing is gonna fly with the ARPA committee.
I'm not sure we can know that right now.
No.
And also, do we need to have printed flyers, or could we do something like it's more of a social media or email or something? That would be cheaper. Just,
Do we want to keep it at 5 or do we want to do 750 or something in between?
the year before it was $42.
There's that.
I'm just,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't see where they spend much money ever, so I don't know
What
why.
is it, what if they,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take money away from somebody when they asked for it and they have a specific need that they think is, but it does feel weird that if they only spent $42 last time.
so they spent $243
This year,
to date?
yeah.
And that, I mean, even if they had the extra cost of a 250 with what they've spent, that fits the 500.
Well, that money doesn't only get carried over as a general, into
Right.
the general fund, it's not,
I'm just saying that,
out of a 500 budget, if they only gonna spend 250, they still got
yeah,
250 for their,
exactly.
And wouldn't we
Oh,
know
at this
earlier
point.
than that, before the end of the fiscal year, that they would get that, to get the ARPA thing? Because that's our plan is to have all those things done January, February, March, kind of. So then, even if they're not gonna be, the next year, they're not gonna be doing anything come July, so
So do we want to keep them at 5?
I say keep 5.
give it a 5.
And then if, I guess they can come back at us.
Keep it at 5.
Okay.
Yeah, just because timing wise, it doesn't seem like, unless they're doing something in September,
that's true.
Right.
yeah.
I think my pen went dead. Have an extra pen, my
Here.
pen, thank you.
Yeah.
I got
No,
this.
I'm looking at my computer, so I don't need a,
Okay.
This and stuff. I think that's it, on town government. I think.
For this meeting.
She wants to left.
I feel like I hear a voice still.
Right.
Well, we're gonna leave it at what they requested for the 2,500.
Yeah.
Select board comments or concerns?
as a select
Well,
board.
they change their mind.
Telemarketer.
Okay.
I have none.
Okay,
Sorry, on the concerns, on the select board concerns, there's been some things floating around on, we talked discussed earlier, on the bridge down here, where the traffic coming off Florence Avenue, of that being a bridge. I can't find, there was no markings on that bridge as being.
Oh, the no park,
No
yeah.
parking.
No parking on the bridge. I can't find, I didn't see any, I didn't take a real thorough look in behind everything, but I did not see any bridge markings. That's not classified as bridge, is it? Isn't that considered a culvert?
On 7?
Yeah.
That's box culvert.
Right, so that doesn't really fit there. I stopped the other day, I actually came through there with 2 different vehicles. One that was about this far off the ground, and my truck, which I looked over the top of all the cars and had no problems. But in my Jeep, if we were to trim, if we were to trim some of the, when you look at the bridge sits here, there's a white picket fence that sits, I'm not sure which side of it, but you can see through that when there's no leaves on the weeds, on the brush right there. I'm not sure if we would be allowed to trim those. I think it's just scrub brush. I don't think it's flowers or anybody's plants. I think it's just brush that grew up. But if that was trimmed, you can actually see through there all the way up to the light, even with all the cars parked there.
So, what is this? I don't want to do that. Stop doing that.
That'd be in the state right of way though, right?
yeah. I think it would be considered the state.
State.
But is it? Because you're actually on the other side of the sidewalk. You're on the back side of the sidewalk.
What is it, in the edge of the brook too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's up on top of the,
Oh, yes.
Oh.
So I see what you're saying. So right in.
Probably shading the fish, so you probably can't cut that. I'm sure it is.
good job.
So no, that looks like that's all on that person's property, and it does
Yeah.
look. Yeah.
I mean,
You're talking about that part, right?
yes.
This little section in
Yeah.
there, yeah.
Is that on personal property?
And it could be,
Looks like
but
it.
like I said, they're not flowers by any means.
Oh, there's a flower here, I can see.
Yeah.
Sadly.
That's,
It's like, it's definitely a weed or a wild, but it's still,
I don't know if it's worth them reaching out to them to see if that's a possibility. It's an option. I just have, like I said, trying
Yeah.
to see what could be done there to improve that.
right. I can't get that perfect angle to see. Yeah.
No, to me, because I walk that way a lot, and I walk that way a lot in the summer, and that's always looked to me like it's on that person's property, all that scrub.
And it could be, and is that, which side of the bridge? I don't remember which side of the bridge.
That's
is
south side.
that's not in front of the daycare, that's
No.
that's
No,
the
it's
other
not.
side.
It just, yeah, so it's just, it's,
Yeah, it's not on the,
Right.
right,
so
But it may be a-
daycare's on there, and then it's on the house with the green.
Yeah.
Okay, but it may be a case of they say sure and take a pair of nippers and drop it down and I'm just thinking anything to help right there.
Yeah.
And-
Well, they'll be covered in snow soon, so.
Yeah, so you defeat your purpose, but, and the only other thing that I had, and I apologize, first night here, but, hey, I've had like 6 years to think, so.
Oh, jeez.
No, we need a couple sidewalks on Route 7, and I know it's state road, but can we reach out to the state, petition the state, 'cause it would be nice to have a sidewalk in that vicinity, because.
You mean a crosswalk or
A
a?
crosswalk.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not a sidewalk, but a crosswalk in that vicinity, only because I don't know how many times I've seen people come out with their kids, carrying their kids, or holding their hands, crossing the road right there.
Right.
Because they park on the other side of the road. And it might be more of an opportunity if they got, because you have more room on the other side of the road to park, I believe. If you parked on the other side of the road, it would alleviate some of the traffic on on the southbound side.
Isn't that one of the spots we kind of asked them about?
Yeah, there was an
Yeah.
issue with it.
I can't remember what it was, that was seemed,
But if we can move
Me
it
either.
up or down, it might be too close to the other crosswalk, but even if you moved it
Yeah.
on the south side of Florence,
Well, even
I'm just
that's part
looking-
where it gets wide. So if like we're thinking all the way over here, you're saying like, so Florence and, what's up, Mill,
Right.
like going across there. I thought that's what we asked
I
them
think
about.
that's,
We did, and there was an issue why they didn't want to do that. I don't remember what it was.
I'd have to look back.
So there was an issue right there?
Yeah,
Because it would make sense, I mean, not just for the traffic right there at the daycare, but you also have traffic, you've got the church.
Yes.
And the old stone shop
right,
on the other side.
Right.
And
Right.
having some sort of crosswalk in that vicinity would make sense, because there is a lot of cross traffic.
yeah. And
And
I'm just
that's
thinking it
right
would
as-
help the people with the daycare who, you know,
Right.
be able to park the other side of the road. And the other spot, the same thing, the other spot I thought of is up on the north end of town by the Catholic church.
Right, and that was the other one. It was going all the way up.
I
Yeah.
just sent Mark you an email, and I sent it to Justin since he's got his laptop up.
Okay.
Of the chain of emails, we were discussing this with John Kaplan, and it has like a map and stuff.
Yes.
This very same conversations we were having. We were having those back in May about possible crosswalks.
Like I said, that was just the two things that
Okay.
you see it driving through town all the time.
Yeah.
And just, you know, speed limit signs coming into town, you know, like we have on Church Street. Again, I don't think if the state would do that either, but that's another idea. We could, if we had the money, $1,500, put one up on 140 West. It does help, I mean, when it's working. I don't know if it's back-
Yes, no,
When it's
that's.
back working again, but
We did, yeah. We put some.
It does work there.
Yeah.
is it back
has
now?
worked, I
Okay.
don't know if it's up.
I came by, was it a month ago? I think I mentioned something to you. that
Oh,
it
the
wasn't-
flashing?
Yeah, it wasn't, nothing was working up there.
I wonder, so I'm curious about this, so a couple of different stipulations on the uncontrolled approaches, so mid-block. At 30, they would have to have 200 feet of sight distance each way, but also if it's downgrade, which right there, it is a little bit of a downgrade,
Yeah.
you have to have more, but it doesn't specify how much.
Oh,
And then on top of that, it also says if the vehicle volume exceeds 3,000 vehicles a day, both directions combined. And I don't know, because it's 7, so it's the major
Yeah, we haven't
route.
done they haven't done a traffic test on it.
Right.
Right.
So I wonder, combined with those two things, that's where we're getting,
I think that was one of the other issues, was that we'd have to do a traffic study.
Okay.
And then north, it's probably the same thing on the north, because if you put it by the Catholic church, you haven't got room enough coming around that corner by Companies.
Exactly.
And I see tonight, the Greyhound bus is parking now down by the Catholic church, or down in that area on the northbound side,
Yeah.
where the bus station is actually Cumberland Farms, so that's because they can't park across from
Can't
Cumberland
park.
Farms,
Right.
right.
so they're parking way down there. You know, it's not that, like as many people getting out of the bus.
This is interesting, though. It says in densely developed areas such as the village center, which is what we have, one crosswalk may be used to channelize pedestrians to the safest or most desirable crossing location. So like if that was like Sitco and the Maple Center, like that would be, that's one good visibility either way. It's far enough away from the other crosswalk. And it's still, I guess, the village center kind of thing, because I would think they would say that those other two spots are too far. But even that would be something to have to be able to cross over. But
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it's, like I said, it was just something that I thought of, and I know,
Yeah.
you know, people had, with Florence Avenue, especially down there, that might slow the traffic down a smidgen going by there if there was a crosswalk.
well, but I think it's one of those, if you had a crosswalk with the flags going back and forth or
Right.
with lights. But the other part is that it has to have 20 feet of within 20 feet of either side of the crosswalk, you have to have no parking. So that would theoretically increase the visibility if it was there, because you couldn't have parking
Wouldn't have
within 20
parking,
feet.
right. Yeah.
But
That's it. I'm
So they just came, they really never gave us a real definite, this is a decision we can come up with, or, yeah.
Right.
I mean, with a petition from the town, or from, if someone wanted to put a petition together from people that lived on Main Street, North and South Main, you know, along Route 7 to put a petition together. I mean, I'm just,
Yeah.
like I said, there's been an awful lot of people complaining on Front Porch Forum about the traffic and the noise, and, you know, this might be a way to alleviate some of that and help, you know, and help them out. I don't know how else you would help them out, but.
Other business. There will be a runoff election on December 6th for Justice of the Peace. Candidates who tied in the vote. Maureen Duchesne and Nick Houghton. So people can vote on that.
Okay.
Upcoming budget review will be for public safety and recreation on December 5th. Highway and appropriations on the 19th. Administration, insurance, and revenue on the 2nd. The Sky Boys Blue concert was canceled due to bad weather. Do you have a date for that yet, Sandy?
No, probably February.
Okay, probably February.
I hate to reschedule for December, just run into the same thing again, so.
Okay.
Is there coming in from where?
Montpelier area.
Yeah, that's a whole.
We don't have an estimate from Gordon yet, do we, Sandy? On the curtains?
On the curtains?
No, they're coming in. They're coming in. Yeah, early December. Let me see. December 7th, they're gonna come and look at the curtains. For blackout, and then the stage curtains. And then I think while they're here, we should just, I'm gonna ask them if they give us a price for insulated curtains up there too.
Did you say stage curtains?
Yeah. I mean, even just very basic. Ours are like completely ripping apart. And we don't have to do all of them, even just one in the
How much
back.
budget would this come out of?
I could come out of the building fund.
Yeah.
But we don't have to. But you know, if we could at least get something to shade. ARPA committee is looking at some of the energy efficiency applications, and one option would be
Insulated
curtains, you know, insulated
Yeah.
blinds or something upstairs. So maybe, you know, blackout and insulating. I mean, that could come from the ARPA fund.
That would be.
Yes.
The energy conservation of it.
Yeah.
So I think we're down to executive session.
So,
That means I gotta go, right?
you need a motion?
That's it, I gotta go.
I move to find
I
that
don't know if there's
future
anything-
general public knowledge regarding pending or probable civil litigation or prosecution to which the public body is or may be a party would put the town at substantial disadvantage.
All those in favor?
I think we need a
All those in
second.
Do we have a second?
Second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we enter into executive session to discuss pending or probable civil litigation under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1E of the Vermont statutes.